House of the Dragon Season 2, Episode 5. This episode, more than anything, I feel like there were two big themes that were revisited over and over and over again in this episode in various ways. Those being, you reap what you sow, and like your chicken's coming home to roost, or whatever that expression is. You made your bed, now you must lie in it, you know, all that jazz. They all basically, variations on that theme. And then the other being parallels, mirrors, history repeating itself, that sort of thing. Just like I've done with the previous episodes, I'm not going to go chronologically through the episode or to recap just what happened. If you want that, there's a million other places to find that. I want to talk about how specific moments create these parallels or explore these themes. The easy one, the most obvious one, is Aegon and Viserys. They very clearly patterned the burns on Aegon to look like Viserys' disfigurement by the end of season 1, and to have him lying in that same bed and have Alicent to see him in that bed, seeing Aegon in that bed looking like Viserys in his final days, obviously makes the brutality of seeing her son so disfigured that much worse for Alicent. Truly, Aegon has inherited his father's seat. Not too much more to say about that. It was more done, I think, again, for like just the visual shock of it for the audience as well as for Alicent. Then Alicent and Rhaenyra, who are constantly being paralleled, juxtaposed, mirrored, played off of each other. I've said over and over again the difference between the way Alicent has raised her children, the way Rhaenyra has raised hers. I hate to belabor the point, but this whole show is kind of about the seeds of that and how that plays out. Alicent's sons, they do not respect her. They have no use for her. They barely have any affection for her. The relationship in that family is quite toxic. When Alicent says to Cole of Aemond, you know what he has become somehow, or you know somehow what he has become, or she uses the word somehow. And like, yeah, sure, right, like, somehow. Who can say where this came from? You know, it wasn't me. Like, there's no way Alicent has anything to do with it. It couldn't have anything to do with how he was raised. Alicent's last words to Aegon were pretty cruel. They were pretty cold. They were pretty unsympathetic. Sort of blaming him for being the worst when, again, the fact that Aegon was so unprepared to be king is not wholly Aegon's fault. And she was quite demeaning to him. And so you could reasonably say that she was at least in some part responsible for him deciding to then go to Rook's Rest to prove himself. So yet again, she bears some blame for an atrocity that has happened in her family. And Aemond has no use whatsoever for Alicent. He doesn't care about his brother, obviously. He doesn't care about his mother either. He wants power, and he's finding he's quite good at getting it. And then Alicent's confidant, besides Cole, which, you know, that's a big old mess, but her most loyal servant, the person who can give her secrets, her spy, is Larys. And he's a conniving, manipulative little weasel. But that's the best she's got. That's her big ally. Meanwhile, Rhaenyra, her Larys now is Miss Arya, somebody that she won to her side through, I wouldn't say good-hearted necessarily, that's overstating it, but she won Miss Arya's loyalty by how she treated her. Not because Miss Arya, of course Miss Arya gets something out of being close to the queen, it is transactional, but she earned Miss Arya's loyalty through treating her right. The advice Miss Arya gives Rhaenyra is of a very different nature than what Larys would give Alicent. The Blacks in general have treated those that serve and surround them pretty well, whereas the Greens have treated those that serve and surround them pretty badly. And King's Landing's on the precipice of revolt. That didn't happen by accident. I mean, of course, Rhaenyra has her own problems with Daemon, but, you know, the way she treats her children, the way she treats her council, the way that she has treated Miss Arya, this inspires loyalty rather than backstabbing. Moving on then to Jace and Aemond. So mostly we've been comparing Aemond to Daemon, and I will do that in a minute. I think it is also interesting to compare Jace and Aemond. Each is the son to a queen, and each is a reflection of the queen that is their mother. Jace is very competent, but he's also loyal. He wants to prove himself, but not at his mother's or his family's expense. Jace is haunted by the death of his brother, and he's affectionate with his stepsisters. Having been around Rhaenyra, he understands how to build alliances, foster relationships. The fruits of that are he's able to build an alliance with the Freys. He's able to come up with the idea of expanding dragon riding so that they have more allies, not less. Aemond is also competent, but he is not loyal. Not to Alicent, not to anyone in his family. He is loyal only to himself. He doesn't want to prove himself, he has a need to prove himself at any cost. He not only does not mourn Aegon's downfall, he celebrates it. Even Helaena doesn't inspire affection in him anymore. It would not occur to Aemond to foster alliances, to expand power and give something like dragon riding to relative commoners He keeps his cards close to his vest. He doesn't speak. He's, in many ways, the exact opposite of Jace, well, being competent, being a good dragon rider, being smart. But, again, in, like, everything that he would choose to do is the opposite of how Jace would operate. And Alicent is horrified by Aemond, but he, you know, he didn't happen by accident. He is a product of the environment that he was raised in. So then, Daemon and Aemond, obviously. Their names alone are parallel mirroring situation. In some ways, they are both kind of like a worst case scenario for each other, and they're also kind of what each of them aspires to be. So Daemon has a reputation for being cunning and for being cutthroat and callous, etc., and he has earned it, to be clear. But we also know him to have affection for his family. He did love his brother Viserys, he does love Rhaenyra, he has affection for his daughters. While he is ambitious, he would not seek outright to harm Viserys, Rhaenyra, his daughters. He'll go around them, he'll disregard what they want or need, but he won't act against them. And now at Harrenhal, we're watching how he is haunted by the demons of his past, that he has regretted his actions, or if not regretted them, maybe regret is the wrong word, but it does bother him what he's done and what he wants to do. He doesn't feel, he's not utterly unfeeling about it, as much as he would like to say that he is. And at Harrenhal, he keeps talking the big talk, but he's not really walking the walk. He talks a lot more about being cutthroat and being cruel than Aemond does. Aemond doesn't talk at all, almost. Aemond just does it, which is much colder. Daemon wants that reputation, and again, to be clear, he has earned it. He has done cold, callous, violent things. He's no cinnamon roll, but it's also important to him to have that reputation, so he'll talk like that. Like, well, you know that I don't care and that I would do whatever. But most of the time it's all talk. Whereas Aemond doesn't say a word, he just does it. But again, Aemond doesn't yet have the reputation that Daemon does. So he's kind of trying to build that for himself now. And he will do anything to get it. And like Daemon, he believes that he, rather than his older brother, should be king. But unlike Daemon, who would never harm Viserys, he clearly has no issue with harming Aegon. While this makes him more cutthroat, arguably stronger, it weakens him, it isolates him. Because while Daemon is cruel, while people do feel wary about Daemon, he also has inspired love and loyalty. He does have the love of Rhaenyra. He does have the love of his daughters. People have loyally served him. I don't know that Aemond is capable of inspiring loyalty or love in anyone besides Helaena. And we see how the attempts to be like Aemond for Daemon at Harrenhal backfire. This big swagger, big talk, you gotta be tough to get things done. It utterly backfires. He loses the people he's trying to bring onto the Targaryen side through this behavior. Meanwhile, Jace, who's taken a page out of Rhaenyra's book, is making deals and alliances, making friends with people, and actually helping their general situation. Aemond wants to show that he's a stronger ruler than Aegon, which isn't hard to do. He is smarter and better than Aegon in pretty much every respect. And he did inherit a bit of a mess that is not entirely of his own making. But parading a dragon's head through the city, putting King's Landing on lockdown, this is the same kind of like hard-ass response that Daemon is going for at Harrenhal, and we see it already backfiring at King's Landing. He's creating the very situation that Rhaenyra, through the help of her now loyal helper, Mysaria, will be able to exploit. So much of what is happening now in the show at this point is less about choices that are being made in the present, although of course those are very pivotal, but the choices being made in the present are very much based on the options that are present because of choices made long ago, which is the whole you made your bed, now you must lie in it. So the deck from which each side is able to like play their moves, so to speak, that deck was built over years and years. The reputations they have, the allies they have, this dictates the choices they're even able to make now. And the choices that they make now are pivotal and important and consequential. But again, the choices that they have in the first place were set up for them by themselves through what their past selves did, if that makes sense. So our characters their choices are dictated by the situations they're in, but the situations they're in were dictated by their own choices. They maneuvered themselves into these positions. The Greens could not now suddenly adopt a black strategy, and neither could the blacks adopt a green strategy. The situations they are in were crafted painstakingly over years. And now, the only choices they have before them are really to back down or double down on what they already have been doing, and we know they're not going to back down. And I just think it's being done so well in this show, the way that they're showing this kind of like puzzle box Rube Goldberg device this way that like the way that all of these little choices over season 1 and season 2, they all contribute to the situation we're in currently. It doesn't feel like, oh, this moment, this choice, this particular situation, our character is going to decide to do this or that. You feel the weight of the 1,000 choices that were made by each of the characters that are participating in the present situation, and how all of those little choices have dictated the circumstances they are in now, and also dictate the choices they are able to make about the circumstances now. So it is just so well done. I'm really, really enjoying it. I don't have a single criticism about this recent episode either. I did see someone call it a filler episode, and I just feel like, I mean, okay, yeah, there was no battle with a dragon dying, but this was not filler. This is the stuff that history is made of. This is the fabric of the type of political situation we are in. This is what makes up a war. It's not just dragons on a battlefield. So let me know your thoughts. Let me know if you hated it, if you loved it, if you think I'm wrong, whatever you want to let me know. But I very much look forward to next week's episode.